A lot of that discretionary spending is no longer being spent on, places like Amazon. So obviously they're going to have to let people go, and obviously they're going to have to look at their profits. And we also have to really look into AI. So we touched on that, but I think a lot of businesses right now are saying, how can we have the same amount of production output with less employees? Because employees are expensive. It's not even just trying to save money from employees. Like a lot of states, you're having increased minimum wages, increased, time off, and, a lot of costs come from employees. And so businesses naturally, when they're looking at their expenses and they're trying to maintain their profits, are going to want to try to replace some people with AI. And we just went to a conference on this past weekend, and there's a lot going on as far as replacing people with AI. You can't replace whole jobs yet, but you can make where you maybe needed 2 people to do a job down to 1 because AI can assist on some of the more menial tasks.
Yeah, and you guys know this is the worst it's going to be. I just really want to point that out. Like even ChatGPT has already been replaced, with better technology. And it's only been around for a little over 2 years, 3 years. So it's moving so fast. And so there are what we call Luddites, that don't do anything. But there are people that are really embracing this, and there are people that are slowly embracing it. And in our company, everybody, and this is really the reality of things, they happen slowly and then they happen very fast. All at once. And so if like my accounting department is very busy, like they're busy, they don't have a lot of excess capacity to look at new technology. That's just the truth. Okay. So it takes leadership to say, hey, let's take a look at this. And then it slowly makes its way in on their terms and obviously working together. But it takes years to do all this stuff. In addition to that, the industry itself is doing that. So just in our little company, we've got like 400 people now. We have legal, that's collapsed. We have accounting, that's collapsed. We have marketing, that's collapsed. And so you start to look at things that you used to be able to do, from copywriting to logos to graphic design to thumbnails for YouTube to whatever it might be. All that stuff it's moving very, very, very fast. And the one thing that I think you're going to need to do, especially if you're in some of these mid-level roles, is you need to embrace this technology and see how you can bring it. Because what you have is, if you have these, call it, I don't know, people that have been in the industry for 30, 40, 50 years, let's say, they're not on top of this stuff like the youngsters, so this is like a tale of 2 cities, you've got, and this is exactly what happened. Like my mom still reads the newspaper, if you can believe that. Okay. I bought her a bunch of computers. She never adapted ever, right? That's just what she is. There are people that do this with books. Now you youngsters, you're looking at books and you're like, well, what are those old things sitting on the shelf? Well, that's the way it was. This is the exact same moment of time, where the people are embracing this technology, and some are implementing it in their companies, some are designing companies completely around it, and others aren't doing anything. And the ones that aren't doing anything are going to continue to struggle, in my opinion, because to Daniil's point, back to the original. And by the way, Amazon leads the country in tech, guys, arguably, right? Leads the world, I should say. One of the leaders of the world in tech. I mean, they have full warehouses of robots, actually. So, we had a huge fulfillment plant in Tucson built right next to one of our properties, and they have a huge parking lot out front, and there's like 10 or 20 cars every day in this parking lot, right? It's all tech. So that's where this is headed.
So, Trump has been saying he wants rates down, obviously. And a weaker economy is what's going to give that to him. So the biggest thing is with the Fed is they're looking at jobs numbers and they're looking at inflation. Jobs numbers have been fine over the past few years, so they've really focused on inflation. Now that jobs are starting to be unsteady, this could prompt rate cuts because The Fed does not want to see job numbers get worse. So it will be interesting next time they meet to see kind of what angle they're going at, especially now that Trump has his new guy in there.
Yeah, to be clear though, the Fed has never hit their target, right? So their target on their website is 2%, that 2% of inflation, right? So now it's true they're under 3%. I get it. And it's one time they were at over 9, so in June of 22. And it's true that it's been bouncing around. So it's not out of control for sure, but they've never actually had it under 2 or at 2. Now, if you go back, there was a time that, everybody forgets that they were well under 2. They were always between 1 and 2, and they were just fine, and they were managing unemployment. Just fine. Right now, to Daniel's point, they're just under 3. And as we've now pointed out, we've got this unemployment potential issue, especially with the graph we just showed you. There's 1 million more openings than there were 1 year ago. So that I do agree with you is going to be a big deal. And especially with this new Fed chair, the Warsh, right?
Warsh, yep.
Warsh, yeah. So Warsh is going to come out. What they could do is they could move that 2% target, right? Which a lot of people say it should be moved. Now, what does that really mean?